Once more, I decided to waste my time by watching the next episode of this new Halo series.
The message just repeats. Regret, regret, regret.
I feel like I wasted an hour of my time. Like, I would have rather done anything else. Like, there's this show queued up right now called Lizzie's Big Girls, okay? I would have rather watched that. I'm sure it would have been more entertaining. I might have actually gotten a little bit of information out of it. There are two reasons somebody would be upset with this, right? I was watching some streamers, like, because sometimes when I'm doing shit, I like to watch people play video games that I can't afford. I was watching some streamers and they talked about the show and they're like, oh yeah, it was pretty good. I liked it. And let me just pivot and say that this is where people differ. Some people, especially gamers or people that play the video game that just don't care about the story or the lore, obviously to them, the only thing that would really upset them is the fact that he's taking off his helmet, right? That would be the only thing that's upsetting them. But the people that actually care about the story or care about like the characters involved in the story, then the perversion that you see done to the story and the characters is almost irredeemable. I think it's called the fidelity issue in film and like adaptations in total, right? It's basically the belief that if you don't show a certain amount of respect to the written in-text material as you do when you're making the adaptation, then you're doomed to fail. But if you're too accurate to the in-text adaptation, it's going to fail anyway, right? Because there's some transitions that have to be made from like a video game to a film or from a film to a TV series. You gotta change shit. Some people just aren't happy with it, right? Some people won't be happy with an adaptation unless it's step by step exactly how it should be. And other people will be happy with the adaptation just because they vaguely recognize the source material. And the whole point is that the audience, basically you and me, we're always going to be fucking wrong in this scenario. There's no real way to win it. But my point, and the thing that I just continue to say, is that these are not the same characters. It's like, it's really botched. It's just mutilated. It's all over the place. And it doesn't matter if I say fucking 3 things wrong in my recitations of the lore. What matters is that this is obviously, to anybody that knows the material, just fucking wrong. Alright, so the series, episode 2, Halo episode 2, whatever the fuck, they say, they have this weird, like, thing when it plays at the end or whatever that says it's based on the universe of the Halo games, which is just weird because it doesn't really seem based on the universe of the Halo game. The episode's called Unbound or some shit like that. And it starts off with John, and he's a younger version of himself, and he's on Reach, and he's in training, and it's right after he had his augmentation. So he has his augmentation scars, and this is probably something this show actually did pretty accurately, is, well, I don't really know if they intended it or if they meant for it to be like a battle wound or something, but he goes after this Spartan who is no longer in his bed. He's left the facility. Spartan 066 or some shit. His name's Sauron. All right, both the Spartans are really young. Let's just put that out there, okay? John and Sauron are both young. Sauron somehow escaped his barracks with a full suit of Mjolnir armor or whatever. He has the entire suit on, right? And he's outside the fence lines of the base, and he's planning to escape. Right off the bat, the first thing that obviously I feel like I should say, that I should point out, that should be obvious, is that, they wouldn't just let him have the armor, and he wouldn't just take the armor, right? Like, it's not a simple thing. You can't just put it on and then take it off, right? I'm pretty sure in the first book they specifically say that it took like a whole bunch of technicians to put the armor on, and they wouldn't even know how to unzip it if they wanted to, and that was the first time they put it on. Okay, I have the book. So this is the first time that the Spartans ever wore the armor or whatever, and it was the first time it was introduced to them. It's on page 116 of this book, And it literally says, he stepped forward. The technicians fitted him as the others watched, and the pieces of the Mjolnir system were assembled around his body. It was like a giant three-dimensional puzzle, right? So it wasn't a simple thing. And this is probably the most damning piece of evidence since somebody wanted me to fucking cite my lore, right? Page 129 of the Fall of Reach book. Sam says, you've got to leave. This is after Sam has taken a round to his side and it's breached his suit, right? Because this was before they had the shields. He says, you've got to leave me, Sam said softly to Kelly, and don't tell me you'll give me your suit. It took those techs on Damascus 15 minutes to fit us. I wouldn't even know where to start to unzip this thing. Just to prove my point. Okay, the Spartans can't just put on their armor, and they also can't just take it off like super fast. That's not the way it works. Even like taking off their helmet's a little complicated. Anyway, moving past that point, all right. Sauron, at least the Spartan Sauron, I think shows kind of the first signs of the augmentation that the Spartans went through, right? Like 72 of them went through of it, and only like 30 of them lived, I think. Not even half that, right? Because a lot of them suffered mutations and like had their muscles grow to a certain point, or like they were just super fucked up, right? But it usually they immediately were washed out of the program. That's if they didn't die, right? Only a lot of them died, and more of them got washed out of the program. But they didn't get just like washed out into civilian life. They were recycled into the UNSC. And like one of the Spartans that literally couldn't move without shaking constantly, or had to be inside a tank for the rest of his life, was able to like pick up Covenant frequencies or some shit by like studying their patterns because he was still super smart. That's kind of my point. Okay, so this Sauron guy that appears, he has like a fucked up arm, and he says that they took his arm from him for this whole shit, which I don't know if that's actually an augmentation thing or if it's a battle thing, but it seems like an augmentation thing, so I'm just going to assume it is because that's actually pretty accurate. So Sauron wants to flee, whatever, and he wants Jon to come with him. Jon apparently had considered going with him, and this, I swear to God, seems almost exactly like the plot from the Cold Protocol series, or the Thursday War, whatever you want to call it. It's like a 3 series of books in Halo, where this group of Spartans that all 3 of them like originally ran away and were just brought back, you know. And that's kind of the whole thing, is that none of those Spartans wanted to be Spartans. They wanted to escape, and Dr. Halsey gave them a choice. They could leave, but they'll probably just, you know, spend the rest of their lives running away, or they could stay and become Spartans and become a secret team called the Gray Team, or whatever the fuck they were. It seems like that's what they were going for here. So anyway, Sauron wants to leave. Jon wanted to leave, but now he doesn't. So now he's like, you can't leave. Sauron's like, fuck you, I want to leave. So Sauron leaves. I feel like that scene was just really weird for me. For me, it was really weird. I don't know how you felt when you were watching it. We go back to Quan and Jon, by the way. I learned her name, so there you go. Her name's Quan. And Quan's super stoked about this fucking slip space thing. Jon gives a science lesson. Who the fuck cares? There was only one thing that I noticed while watching this scene, is that Quan is like afraid that they're gonna die after they come out of slip space and they're in like asteroids or some shit. And she says, we're gonna die, and Jon says, everything dies. And it's just like the edgiest fucking weirdest line that you could put. I almost feel like you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like Jon always says, no we won't, right? When people say we're gonna die, he goes, no we won't. Even though everybody else around him usually dies, he always survives. But I'm just saying. So he gets to this giant asteroid base for insurrectionists or rebels or thieves, whatever the fuck you want to call them. My point is that, once again, it's like a core facet of this book, is that there's a giant asteroid where all the insurrectionists are. The only difference that the book has is that the Jackals and the Covenant kind of own it. It's mostly the Jackals, because the Jackals were like some space piratey race beforehand, and they still kind of want to trade shit. So like the Jackals are the only covenant that actually tolerate humans, because they're like, fuck yeah, we can make money, or whatever the fuck they do. It's also implied that they have sex with humans. So because the Jackals are a patriarchy or whatever, they're led by the female Jackal, whatever, chooses who she wants to bang. Off topic, sorry. My point is that that part is in the books, so hypothetically in the future, the episode might, I guess, happen with the Covenant actually attacking that, because that's what happens in the books. So he goes on to this asteroid place because he conveniently knows exactly where to find his friend Sauron, who ran away 22 years ago, and he knows exactly where he is. So he goes to this insurrectionist stronghold. He walks on in there just casually, right? And obviously, nobody likes him there because he's a Spartan and they're insurrectionists or rebels, whatever the fuck you want to call them, the colonists. After making like this brief display of strength, Sauron finally appears. He's wearing his Spartan chest piece still. He's still fucked up, and he's played by that one guy. And I can't remember his name. I feel it's not Forrest Whitaker. I don't know. He's played by some guy. John's like surrounded by all these people that 100% would kill him, right? And the first thing he does when he sees Sauron is takes off his helmet, because naturally this version of John in this show takes off his helmet almost every 5 fucking minutes. I swear his helmet's been off longer than he's actually been in the suit on runtime. Like, I swear to God. So yeah, he takes off his helmet. They kind of bro it up. There's some weird asteroid physics going on. It doesn't make sense, but it's cool. Like, it looks cool. Obviously, the dude tells him, like, hey, take off your suit before you come into my house or some shit. So John just, instantly takes off his Mjolnir armor or whatever, which is, again, that's just so fucking weird that they can just take it off so fast. I think even in, like, Halo 4 or 5, they had the scene where it was showing how the Spartans took off their armor and put it on, and it was literally like this complex fucking mechanism, not just like zip, but fuck it, I guess. Then it goes back to High Charity again, and what I thought before was that maybe, this chick, the Blessed One, could be a prisoner or something like that, but no, she's not. She's literally standing next to the 3 high prophets, talking to the elite who addresses her by her title, and it's revealed that basically, she is a part of the Covenant and a high-ranking member of the Covenant for a very specific reason. She even lectures them at one point, which is weird. She's like literally talking shit to them. Pop off queen, I guess, female representation in the Covenant. Fuck it. So the thing that's revealed a little later on, but I feel like is important to touch on for this chick, is that the Blessed One or whatever, so artifacts in this verse are a little different. Obviously, you can't just say that all humans activate artifacts. Apparently now it's only very specific humans with higher purpose in life that are glorified and fucking some shit like that. And I'm pretty sure there was this theory floating around that the Master Chief was actually like a reincarnation of one of the dead Forerunners or some shit like that, and that's why he can activate stuff. But the point is, we've seen Miranda, we've seen fucking Captain or General Admiral Hood or whatever in the books touches and activates an artifact, and fucking John activates an artifact, and Halsey activates it. Basically everybody activates artifacts.
What's the matter, big shot? Can't start your own party?
I admit, I need your help. But that secret dies with all the rest. You were weak, and gods must be strong.
Easy. Take the icon in your hands and do as you are told.
Please use caution. This reclaimer is delicate.
No, Arbiter. The great journey has begun, and the brutes, not the elite, shall be the Prophet's escort.
Your judgment has waited long enough.
Just get it over with.
So it's really weird that they're saying, oh, these are very specific people that can activate the artifacts. They're blessed ones, and they're super rare because they have, like, other people touch it and nothing happens. Only when the main characters touch it. So obviously at some point maybe Quan will touch it and something will happen. Who fucking knows? Alright, so that's the Covenant bit, and she wants to go to the asteroid place to find the artifact and bring it back because she can blend in among humans, which, sure. It's just a weird fucking thing. It's just weird considering the Covenant have so much firepower that if they have this one fucking thing they need and they know exactly where it is, why wouldn't they just throw 1,000 ships at it like they did to fucking Earth and Reach, right? They just fucking threw shit at it. And this Covenant is a little bit more conservative, I guess. There's a board of people meeting to talk about what to do about John because John is now running away, blah blah blah, who gives a shit. Before this, there was some stupid edge scene with Halsey and Admiral Hood talking about what are they gonna do or some shit. And the thing about this meeting is they constantly refer to the Master Chief as the Master Chief, and that's just a little weird considering, you know, it's the government. They would refer to him as Spartan 117, right? They wouldn't refer to him as Master Chief, or they would refer to him as like Chief Petty Officer First Class. I don't remember what's the actual fucking rank for him. Yeah, Master Chief Petty Officer, right? You just don't call him the Master Chief because there's more than one Master Chief Petty Officer, right? It's not like a rank that is only held by this one guy. You know, they're in a fucking military council meeting. Why wouldn't they just refer to him as Sierra 117 or Spartan 117? You know, that's what they call him in every other instance, right? I don't know. I just thought that was really weird that they just kept going, the Master Chief, the Master Chief. It's like if fucking you looked at Captain Keyes and said the captain over there disagrees with the admiral. It's just weird. Again, this Captain Keyes makes no sense to me because he says that John can't be controlled, which is just weird. From, again, the character is he considers John like his friend almost to a certain extent, or you could even say his son, like his estranged son. But this guy just doesn't give a shit about John, and again, it's just so different from what the character actually is. It's kind of weird. It's weird to see. So they're talking about what to do with John, and Halsey chimes in to propose her plan of Cortana. And here we get this giant piece of fucking, again, this is them just completely fucking everything. It just, none of it makes sense now. None of it. Cortana, brace yourself for this. In this show, Cortana is meant to control the minds of the Spartans, right? So that they literally have no personality, no thoughts, no feelings. They are Cortana. That's what the fucking show is about. Dr. Halsey even goes on this rant about how Cortana is the next stage of human evolution, which, you know, you can argue, sure, they kind of went that direction, I think, in Halo 5, where they had all the AI rise up and say that they are the next step in human evolution. And if you're Elon Musk, I'm sure you agree. And sure, AI are probably the next step in human evolution, but what she's implying is not human evolution. It's like literally Cortana controls the mind of the super enhanced Spartans, right? That's basically what she says, is that the enhancements are the first half and the Cortana is the second. Cortana was originally introduced specifically to interface with the Master Chief, but her goal, her purpose, was to drive the Covenant ship and interface with their terminals because she was some super high speed. She was considered a smart AI, right? That was her purpose. And when she was integrated into John's suit and she could, like, you know, influence him a bit, but she never took over and she, like, stayed in the dark corner of his mind or some shit. It's just really weird to me that they decided to go to the route where Cortana is essentially mind control, and not just for John, for all Spartans. She is the mind control, which I think is just a fucking terrible idea. written idea. It's fucking stupid. This is like Terminator level shit. Halsey says that Cortana is the intelligence of the galaxy, which, you know, again, in the books, Cortana is like a smart AI, but even the smartest human AI is nowhere near like the Forerunner AI or any of their shit, or the monitors, right? They're way fucking smarter. Captain Keyes suddenly cares about, you know, controlling John's mind because he's a person, right? But this isn't what he was saying before when he said John can't be controlled. He literally flip-flopping back and forth. It cuts to this scene of like a space dictator, and he's executing people because he took over the planet Madrigal after making a deal with the UNSC or some shit. Which, I'll be honest, I could literally give two fucks about this guy, just all around. I don't care about this little planet that's having these issues, because in the reality is, if the Covenant found something on that planet, they would just go there and fucking destroy it and then go get the shit they wanted, right? They wouldn't care about the politics or whatever. And again, their warp technology is so much farther ahead of ours, it would just be like an instant thing. But it's like 1984 vibes, right? It's just he's executing innocent civilians while making jokes, and then he, like, you know, looks at one and goes like, oh, she's pretty, and then shoots her, which is kind of savage, but still, you know, it's just, I don't give a fuck about it, right? So we go back over to the asteroid place, and they're doing space drugs again, which is like awesome. And I think it's called Clarity, or that was just a pun. But anyway, that's 2 for 2, right? They had the nut that was drugs and fuel, and now they have like an inhaler that's also drugs but clarity. I like the drugs. They're funny. Oh yeah, Spartans now take pills to inhibit their ability to taste, feel, experience emotion, just all this weird shit, right? Like they take the what was that movie called? Equilibrium, right? They take the pill that makes them emotionless and they don't feel anything, which is like great. That's really not what the Spartans were. The Spartans did feel shit. They could taste shit. It's just weird. The only thing that they did was, you know, they repressed their sex hormones so they wouldn't feel like horny. That's the only thing that they say, you know. They don't inhibit anything else except for the Spartan 3s. The Spartan 3s, which are my favorite iteration of Spartans, were like always had to take pills, always had to take adjustments because they were so fucking hyped up on their mental twitches. They would just like go insane if they didn't have their medication and start killing friend or foe, right? They wouldn't be able to tell them apart. Spartan 3s were the coolest Spartans ever, and nobody's ever talked about them, ever. John talks to the guy and he's like, yeah, you just gotta, you know, learn to fucking live your life and not take the pills anymore. And John gets emotional and blah, blah, blah. Who gives a shit? I really don't care about any of this. Again, he's not wearing his helmet. He's not doing anything. He's just whatever. So then we cut back to the fucking back in the UNSC side, and Miranda Keyes is walking around Admiral Parangovsky or whatever, and Miranda Keyes is complaining about that Dr. Halsey is given precedence over Forerunner tech or some shit, because she should be the one that has precedence over it, because she's the one that's been making advancements in shields and all this other shit scientifically, right? Which, again, this is a massive deviation from the original character. And I feel like, suffice it to say that I'm pretty sure what they did was they took Dr. Halsey and like made all of her shitty parts one character and gave that the name Halsey, and then made all her good redeeming parts the other character and named that Miranda, which just doesn't make sense, because again, Miranda Keyes followed in the footsteps of her father specifically and became a commander in a ship and shit, right? She didn't like her mom, so she didn't fucking care about that. But in this version, she created shield tech, apparently, which, again, I actually think it says in here. Alright, the only part that I can find is on page 249. And Dr. Halsey is basically just explaining to John about the armor that they're getting, which is the upgraded version. This is when he first meets Cortana. First, she told him, "We have replicated and, might I add, improved upon the energy shield the Covenant Jackals have been using against us to great effect." Which is to say that the original the energy shields for the Spartans or whatever were created from these the jackal bands that the Jackals have. There's a bunch of references in the books of them like taking this technology and keeping it and then bringing it back. And obviously they reverse engineered it, but it definitely wasn't Miranda Keyes that reverse engineered it. It strongly implied that it was Dr. Halsey. So again, I just think it's weird that they decided to make it so that Miranda Keyes is the one that created the energy shields and has been making leaps and bounds in the field of scientific study. It's like fucking whatever. What else happened? There was the artifact only works for John and the Blessed One, apparently, because again, they're super special. It's not special. It's not that they're just the main characters. They're the Blessed Ones. Super special. They had some stereotypical crazy guy basically say that he was abducted by the Covenant and they tried to make him activate artifacts, but it didn't work. Even though he's super sensitive. Dude, it's just fucking, it's tired and done. So the crazy guy basically tells him to destroy the artifact and then destroy himself, which leads me to believe that John is actually going to be the only one that can activate the Halo ring specifically, which just makes no fucking sense. At least that's what it's implying, right? He wants to leave Quan and go back to the UNSC because why not? I guess they need to be aware of what's going on. And Quan does the stereotypical thing that pretty much it almost feels like every side character in every movie that's like a girl does this, where they say, don't I get a say in this, right? And they're like, don't I get a say in this? And they're like, no, you don't get a say in this. You have to stay. Obviously, something's going to happen. Eventually, they'll be reunited. Who gives a shit? It doesn't make sense that John went back, but fuck it, whatever, we're going back. They took off his suit again, just so that, in case you were wondering, right? He's still John. He has a talk with Dr. Halsey that's just fucking weird, right? That's basically that's the episode. Honestly, though, I just don't know how I'm gonna get back that hour of my life. That was fucking brutal. I guess I will. You know what? Maybe I will watch this. Lizzie, watch out for the big girls. Oh.